You were probably afraid of the dark as a child. Maybe you still feel a flicker of unease when the lights cut out. A child born blind never sees light or shadow. Yet that child still develops a terror of darkness at the same age you did. How can that be possible? The obvious explanation is wrong. This fear does not need eyes. But what is it really? The answer stretches back millions of years. It runs on a clock inside the human body. A blind child's fear of the dark is not a failure of reassurance. It is triggered by an internal developmental timer as old as bones. In the 1970s, psychoanalyst Selma Fraiberg studied blind infants. She wanted to understand how they formed attachment without vision. Her team observed something striking. Around their second birthday, blind children began showing a fear of the dark. They cried at bedtime. They clung to parents when the lights were turned off. These children had never seen the color black. They had no concept of shadows. Yet they cried when the room went dark. The timing was nearly identical to sighted toddlers. Why would a child who has never seen dark be afraid of it? That discovery forces you to rethink what the fear actually is. You always assumed you were afraid of what you saw, or what you imagined lurking in the dark. But Freyberg's observation suggests something deeper. The fear is not a response to a scary visual. It is a signal from a much older system. To understand this, look back to the world your ancestors lived in. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, spent decades tracing the roots of childhood anxiety. He argued that many fears are pre-programmed. They are survival circuits shaped by evolution. For a small primate on the savannah, the dark was a lethal risk. Predators hunted at night. A toddler separated from a parent in the blackness would not survive long. The fear of darkness kept young children close to protectors. It was not about seeing a lion. It was about the absence of the one who could shield you from the lion. Bowlby called this the fear of being alone. Darkness became a natural cue for separation. Over thousands of generations, this association etched itself into the nervous system. It became a developmental milestone, just like walking or speaking. At a certain age, the brain begins to sound the alarm, and it does so whether or not visual confirmation is available. That is why a blind child is still afraid. Darkness for them is not an image. It is the texture of aloneness, the stillness in the room, the fading of familiar sounds, the withdrawal of touch. The brain registers a state of heightened vulnerability. The fear clock strikes 2, and terror floods in. Now consider the brain behind this fear. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux has mapped the fear circuit deep inside your skull. It centers on a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. The amygdala can set off a full-body alarm before the thinking brain even knows what is happening. This circuit matures early in development. Around the second year of life, the amygdala becomes increasingly reactive. It starts scanning for danger cues. Darkness is one of those cues. But if vision is absent, the amygdala latches onto other signals. The lack of motion, the drop in temperature, the quiet, the sheer sensing of being cut off from others. So a blind child's brain finds the darkness without eyes. It reads the same biological script. The fear is not about what is seen. It is about what is missing. Here's the counterintuitive twist. You think you can reason a child out of being afraid. You show them there is no monster under the bed. But for a blind child, there is no visual reassurance to offer. Yet parents of blind children often feel they have failed when their child is terrified. They cannot point to the light. They cannot explain that the dark is empty. But Freyberg's work tells them something vital. Their child's fear is not a failure of comfort. It is not a broken child. It is an ancient program running exactly on schedule. The fear would have come anyway. Your own childhood terror followed the same rulebook. Your parents checked the closet. They left the door ajar. It helped, but the deep unease did not vanish completely. Because the fear was never really about the closet. It was about separation. The dark simply pulled the trigger. Do you still feel that trigger today? You might think you outgrew this prehistoric wiring, but the circuit never shuts off. It only rewires. Adults rarely fear the dark in the same way a toddler does, but many still feel a shapeless anxiety at night, lying awake in a silent room, a sudden dread of being alone in the world, a worry about loved ones. Insomnia feeds on it. That is the old mammalian alarm humming in the background. Modern life tries to banish the dark with electricity. Your phone glows beside the bed. Screens fill every corner with light, yet the amygdala still knows. Deep in the body, The ancient night still falls. Some blind adults describe something similar, not a fear of darkness per se, but a periodic, formless unease that surfaces when the world quiets. It may not belong to vision. It belongs to the same developmental timer that ticks in every human. A blind person may call it by a different name, but it carries the same ancestral signature. The story of blind children's fear reveals a hard truth. Some fears cannot be taught away. They cannot be logically dismantled. They are baked into the sequence of becoming human. From the moment you drew breath, a clock was counting toward that first night terror. Your body knew the dark before your eyes ever opened. Can that be frightening? Yes. But there is also something strangely reassuring. Imagine a blind toddler screaming in the dark, alone in a crib, eyes that perceive nothing but a forever black. And yet the fear is not a sign that something is broken. It is a sign that a deeply human program is running, the same program that kept your ancestors alive through a million dangerous nights. Fraiberg said that the most important thing for these children was the presence of a soothing caregiver, not explanations, not logic, just touch, a voice, the warmth of someone nearby. Because what the dark is really saying is, you are alone. And the antidote is, I am here. So when you were a child, your parents' voice in the darkness was enough. It didn't erase the fear entirely, but it quieted the deepest layer of the alarm. That layer never needed a nightlight. It needed another heartbeat. Today, you still carry that need. Perhaps you reach for your partner in the small hours, or you call a friend when the night feels too heavy, or you scroll through messages looking for a connection. The dark still whispers the same ancient warning. You still answer with the same ancient remedy. You were afraid of the dark as a child. You probably still feel it sometimes. But now you know the secret. That fear never came from your eyes. It came from a clock deep inside you. The clock that still runs in every blind child. The same clock that kept your ancestors close to the fire. So the next time the dark feels heavy, remember, you're not broken. You are simply human. And the dark, for all its power, never needed to be seen to be felt. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. A new story every week.